this time, we'll call the December 4th, 2017 Alexander County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I'll recognize Dr. Jeff Peel for the Pledge of Allegiance, and those that want to remain standing will have a brief invocation.
Join me in the pledge, please. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day you've blessed us with. Lord, we thank you for our health, giving us the ability to come and attend a meeting. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon our community. We ask that you continue to watch over us, guide us, and lead us, and direct us in all of our decisions, that they're in the best interest of our community. Lord, I ask you provide a safety hedge around our emergency officials, our policemen, firemen, EMS. Lord, please keep them safe as they do their duty and serve our community. God, I ask all this in your name. Amen. At this time, I'll ask for any commissioners' reports.
The quarterly LEPC meeting was the other day, and it's just always comforting to know, we think of our emergency services people, the ones that we see a lot, the deputies and the guys in the ambulance and all those, but there's a lot of people that are continuously doing things to protect us, to keep us safe. A lot of citizens that serve on the LEPC and other boards that truly are concerned about the safety and welfare of our county. And it's just a good feeling to know when you're sitting around a table with a lot of people and their only purpose is just to make sure that we're safe and that our citizens are taken care of, and in a sense of an emergency or a crisis that someone's going to be there for them. It's just, I think, just hats off to a lot of volunteer people who give up a lot of time to do those things.
I'll just mention we had the annual Bethlehem Star Lighting last Saturday night, and there was a good turnout, and it was a good time. My 3-year-old really enjoyed seeing Santa Claus, so hats off to the guy that plays Santa Claus there. So he did a great job, and everybody seemed to have a great time. I don't know if you knew it or not, but the Bethlehem Star was damaged in the tornado that we had on October 23rd, I believe was the date. And we had to use a much smaller star for the Bethlehem community this year, but hopefully that will be up next year and be repaired.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize somebody that's in our audience that doesn't know if I recognize them, but I received this letter from the University of North Carolina School of Government, and it's in regard to Russell Green. And it says, Dear Mr. Campbell, on September 15, 2017, Russell Green completed the Leading for Results course at the School of Government at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Russell was chosen to participate as a 2017 Local Government Federal Credit Union Fellow. Fellows were selected through a competitive process. There were more than 130 applicants from across the state for the 50 fellow positions to attend one of the 2 course offerings. Selection for the program was based on the identification of emerging leaders in local government and the quality of the applicants. The program focuses on organizational leadership. Participants were introduced to models of leadership as well as management and leadership tools and strategies. Fellows had the opportunity to gain insight into their individual leadership styles and strengths, practice critical leadership behaviors, and work with individual coaches on ways to increase their effectiveness within their organizations. Russell participated in the first course offered for the 2017 Fellows Program, which was an outstanding cohort of leaders from across the state. Each of the fellows is committed to developing leadership knowledge and skills to help his or her organization and community. Please join me in congratulating Russell on being selected as an LGFCU Fellow and completing this intensive program. Sincerely, Willow Jacobson, Director of the LGFCU Fellow program. So Russ, congratulations. I meant to bring this at the last meeting, and it stayed on my desk, so I apologize, but awesome honor, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other commissioner reports? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And we only have a second.
Important.
And I will indicate that unfortunately, Mr. Reese and Mr. Lael had conflicts tonight. They're normally here, but, so we'll try to do the best we can in their absence. Any discussion concerning this motion of adoption agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. Public comment. Okay, no public comment. This time, we'll move on to the election of a board chairman. So I'll open for nominations for the chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a nomination, and before I do that, I will say that if you miss the meetings, then you get to serve on the boards and other things that maybe we don't want to do. But no, that's not true. But I'd nominate that Ronnie Reese would be next year's chairman.
Okay, have a
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Well, you pay when you're not here, don't you? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. At this time, I'd entertain the election of the board vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Commissioner Josh Lael as board vice chairman.
Second.
All right, boy, they'll learn, won't they? They'll be here next week, or next month, probably early. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. All right, that was easy.
Yeah.
Y'all send them a text, let them know their new positions. At this time, we'll hear the audit report for year ending 6/30/17, Martin Starnes and Associates, CPAs. So if you'd like to come to the podium, give us the highlights.
I'd like to introduce Jill Vang with Martin Starnes and Associates, and while she's getting ready, I'll hand out another schedule that's not in your packet.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Like Jennifer mentioned, my name is Jill Vang from Martin Starnes and Associates, and I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to serve as your auditors for one more year. Next slide. This slide shows the audit results for fiscal year 2017. We issued an unmodified opinion, which is a clean and the best opinion you can get. And we also wanted to commend your staff for being cooperative with us and working well with us, Jennifer, Linda, and their staff. This slide shows the revenues for the general fund as a percentage of total revenues. Your three largest revenues during fiscal year 2017 were property taxes, or the ad valorem taxes, at 52%, local option sales tax at 22%, and restricted intergovernmentals at 13%. Then we will look at the top three revenues in the next couple slides. This slide shows your ad valorem taxes comparing 2016 to 2017, and it shows approximately just a slight increase of $5,000 compared to prior year. The slide shows your local option sales tax comparing 16 to 2017. There was approximately a $1.6 million increase, or 23.2%. The main reason for the sales tax revenue increase over fiscal year 16 is a new Article 44-524 sales tax from the state's new sales tax distribution plan. The county received approximately $1.3 million in fiscal year 17 from the new sales tax article, which you did not have that in 2016. And this new sales tax is restricted to economic development, public education, and community college. This slide shows the restricted intergovernmental revenues comparing 2016 to 2017. There was approximately $140,000 or 2.8% increase, and these includes your federal and your state grants. Now we're going to look at your expenditures in the general fund. Your top three largest expenditures were in human services at 28%, public safety at 27%, and education at 18%. And then we'll also look at your top three expenditures in the next couple of slides. Human services, comparing 2016 to 2017, approximately was a $365,000 or 3.6% decrease, and this includes your health department, your Department of Social Services, and your senior center. This slide shows your public safety expenditures comparing 2016 to 2017, and there was approximately a $323,000 or a 3.6% increase. And the public safety includes your sheriff's office, detention center, fire protection, emergency communications, inspections, and your emergency medical. This slide shows your education expenses comparing 2016 to 2017, and there was approximately $414,000 or 7.1% increase. And education includes your current expenses for Board of Education, your auditorium reimbursements, and your CVCC expenses. This slide shows your general fund debt. Current year debt payments was approximately $1.9 million in the current year. And then if we look at your total debt balances at 6/30/17, it was about $8.4 million. This slide gives you a definition of what fund balance is, and fund balance serves as a measure of the county's financial resources available. You arrive at fund balance by taking your assets plus your deferred outflows, and then you minus that from your liabilities plus deferred inflows. There are 5 classifications for fund balance. They are non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned is what's left over after your other classifications. This slide shows the formula for your available fund balance, and available fund balance is defined by the LGC and is calculated as follows, Total fund balance, you less your non-spendable unless any stabilization by state statute gets you back to your available fund balance. And this is a calculation utilized as a basis for comparing you to other units and calculating your fund balance percentages. The LGC looks for units to maintain an available fund balance percentage around the average for a population group. And we'll look at the detail for your available fund balance in the next couple of slides. Increase in general fund balance was about $3 million, and your available fund balance percentage is 35.86% of general fund expenditures and transfers out. This 35.86% is approximately 4.5 months of expenses. This next slide shows your available fund balance. Available fund balance in 2017 was at $12.9 million. Compared to 2016, there was an increase of about $2.9 million, and that is about a 30% increase in your available fund balance from prior year, and this is just mainly due to an overall increase in your fund balance in the general fund. Now we're going to take a look at some of your enterprise funds. This slide shows your solid waste fund overview. Cash from operations was a negative $71,000. Budgetary net income was about $82,000, and there were no long-term debt. I just wanted to remind you that budgetary net income does not include your depreciation expenses. We're going to take a look at your net position for the solid waste fund. Total net position was about $76,000, less your net investment in capital assets arrives you at your unrestricted net position of a negative $617,000. Now we're going to take a look at the water funds. In Bethlehem Water, cash from operations was about $653,000, and your budgetary net income was about $326,000. For county water and sewer, cash from operations was about $555,000, and the budgetary net income was about $262,000. Net position for your water funds in Bethlehem Water, total net position was about $5.6 million, less your net investment in capital assets arrives you at your unrestricted net position of about $1.8 million. County water and sewer, total net position about $7.2 million, less your net investment in capital assets arrives you at unrestricted net position for county water and sewer at $1.8 million. Debt for water fund. Bethlehem Water had outstanding debt 6/30/17 of about $136,000. Current year debt payments were about $192,000, and this debt will be paid off in next fiscal year, 2018. County water and sewer had outstanding debt at 6/30/17 of about $5.2 million. Current year debt payments were about $414,000, and then this debt will be paid off in 2035. These next two slides are upcoming for fiscal year 2018. This first slide is related to a new accounting standard to OPEB, which is called YASB 75. Your OPEB is your post-employment benefits. For most entities, this is where you pay retirees' health insurance. In the past, when you put the liability on the books, previous guidance allowed governments to amortize the liability over a period of up to 30 years, so you put a little bit on your books at a time. What YASB 75 is doing for fiscal year 18 is now you're going to put the whole liability on the books. Like Elgers and Leo, that's already on the book, you will have a prior period adjustment. You're deferred for pensions, pension expense, and a larger liability. And then every government will require a new OPEB actuarial study. For compliance, there's going to be some changes in fiscal year 2018 as well. Direct benefit programs, expenditures, will be coming off your scheduled federal state awards. What this means is that when we calculate your major program threshold for the county in determining which programs you have as major, we may have more programs that we have had in the past that tested as major due to the threshold dropping. In 2017, there was only one major program for the county, but in 2018, we're estimating about 6 to 8 programs. Also, yes.
Help me a little bit with that. I'm not sure I understand what
Okay.
you're saying.
So the direct benefit programs, benefits are like the benefits that the county does. It doesn't come through the county. It goes straight directly to the participants, like Medicaid and CHIPS and all that. So this year, or in previous years, that direct benefit payment's been on the scheduled federal state awards, and then when we calculate our threshold for major programs, since it's there and it's a large number, then our threshold's higher, and we can test those programs and meet our threshold for major program. But since those large numbers are coming off, our thresholds are dropping, and now we have to test smaller programs to meet our threshold.
And you said we're going from 1 to 16?
6 to 8. 6 to 8.
Okay.
6 to 8. And then the
Thank
other
you.
thing on this slide, the Office of State Auditors will also require agreed-upon procedure engagements for state-selected programs separate from the audit engagement. At this time, we are still awaiting more instructions and details from the Office of State Auditors, and there's still a lot of unknowns. But we will, I think we have a meeting coming up in January, and we'll have more information then. We'll communicate it to Jennifer and your finance staff with more information. And are there any questions?
I've got a few. Probably Jennifer needs to come up also. Our fund balance now is about 35%. How does that, I think we're right with the average of other
Yes,
counties.
That's
our size.
correct. The information is not available for other counties for fiscal year 17. The most recent information is from last year, 2016. But the average for counties in our population group, the most recent information is 32.23%. So we're just a little above that. Over the past several years, I've been tracking the other counties in our population group, which is between 25,000 and 50,000 in population, and it's been going up year after year for that population group average. Ours has wavered a little bit, so I expect it to go up from that 32% for the population group average as well, so I think we're going to be right in there with them.
Okay, good. That's good news. I'm glad to hear we're finally where we should be at. One more question. So on the GASB 75, what is that going to mean as far as, so before we could, take a piece of that retirement and put it in, and just kind of like Social Security's done. Now you're saying that we're going to have to take the entire 30-year period and put it away?
Well, now, when you say put it away, we don't have to set money aside, and we don't
Show
have
it
to
as a
fund it.
liability.
It's going as a
Contingent
liability on the financial statements, but it does not affect our budget. That's correct. Yeah, you are not required to fund it. We've been doing a pay-as-you-go
Okay.
arrangement, and we are still allowed to continue that. It's just in some parts of this audit report, you'll see a very different number for the liability than what you're used to seeing.
Does that run a risk of running the liabilities where they would exceed the assets and the negative net worth of the
Yes.
county?
Yes.
Huh.
Especially for your enterprise funds, it might, but then you guys only have one that affects.
We only have a few employees in the enterprise fund, so I'm hoping it will not affect us as greatly as some places that have lots of employees for those enterprise funds, like, if they have water operations or electric or something like that. But it will be a change, but we are not required to go ahead and come up with all the money and set it aside. But it is,
Just recognize it
it's
for what it
something to
is.
look at, though, that's the estimate of what it will be over time.
Now, is the state government doing the same as we're doing? Right,
We're having to
or
do that?
Being
Yes.
required to do?
GASB is-
Okay,
It's a federal requirement.
okay.
Yeah, so it's all local governments and state governments across the country.
Well, it probably was understated previously.
Oh, yeah.
It might be
Yeah.
somewhat overstated now, but you're probably more conservatively
Yes.
showing it as the full liability currently.
Yes. And I think over time, as the statements have evolved from the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, local governments have made changes in their other post-employment benefits plans, as we have. I think that was something that was to educate the local governments as well as the public about what those costs would be. And so I think that's something to keep it from being such a shock to the system later. But I wanted to make mention, the handout that I gave you right before we started, that had to do with the part where she was talking about the compliance testing. I know the print on that is very little. We normally have a separate bound report that includes those compliance reports. It looks like this, but just a smaller book. Some changes had to be made in that, and it had to go back to the LGC, so we do not have a bound copy. So we don't have a full audit report for you, and I'll get that to you once we get those approved from the LGC, and you can have a full reporting package.
Some things I noticed in here, you did see some increase in revenue in some of the items that kind of give economic signals, register deeds, building inspections are
Yes.
up. And year over year, because I went back and looked at 2016, I looked at the total spending and then the revenue piece to see where we've increased spending in some departments, some are less, but the overall spending increase was not real large over year 2016, 2017, they 500 and some thousand dollars, maybe 600, which I think is a good thing. But some of those economic indicators, but I guess the concerning thing is how flat the taxes are on the real property.
It
And
was like a 1.28% increase in valuation.
Yeah.
But it's better than what it's been the last few years, which was more than a 2% decrease each year in the
Yeah.
valuation.
But if you're looking for money, trying to find it, that is probably
What was it, $5,000
$5,000.
increase?
So if you
over last
split
year?
that through the budget to all the spending, everybody get like $12.
And remember when we talked about, when we went through the budget process, we talked about that was, there was just no growth in our budget in that area.
Would commend the staff. I mean, an unqualified opinion on an audit is not an easy thing anymore, especially as liability for companies like yours. And, it's not a layup anymore at all. And so, and the cooperation of the staff, I think that's very important. It makes you feel good if you're ultimately accountable, as we are, as we sit up here for these financials, that you get this type of audit. So congratulations to
Thank
you
you.
and your staff, and please pass along that.
I will. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, not only does it take the finance staff, and they do a great job, but it takes all our departments working
yeah.
together, because it's a lot of people working on this budget as we move through the fiscal year. So we appreciate it very much.
Is there any, other than that, recognizing that liability, is there any other bogey out there you see in our financials that we would raise a concern?
I am not aware of any because
I'm sorry, I kind of put you on the spot there. But, I mean, if there's if there's something out there that causes a heightened sense of concern, we certainly want to deal with it.
I don't think there is with that, but I do think what she mentioned about the change in the way the compliance testing, it's going to be a lot more involved, and it might require several trips out from the auditors to come out and meet with different departments. And not that it would have an effect on the financial statements, but it might involve, people who are not used to dealing with the auditors coming out and testing. So I think it will be a real change for us to go from that, because when you look at that handout, those large direct benefit payments, like I said, when those drop off, that really lowers that threshold. So there's a lot more programs to be tested, more time, more money involved, because now we have more procedures. And all this is coming from the state auditor's office. They have really pushed down what they used to do for their testing to local government auditors. And as you know, they don't give us any money to pay for those extra steps to be performed. So it's really going to be an experience for us going through that this year, when they're still learning about what's expected, and then they have to pass that along to us. So that's not really anything that I think you'll see directly on the financial statements, but it will be a big difference for us next year and in getting it completed and getting all the reports done.
We're in a very regulated world, private industry as well, and it has created so much expense. People struggle to make money.
Yeah.
So,
I'll say one more thing about it, and then Jeff, but this is just a snapshot of this year, and you guys have done a great job. And, things change, so we've got some water and sewer projects that we're going to be doing, so those numbers will change pretty soon. And we got some other projects that are going to have to be done. So you guys have done a good job. The county manager's done a good job of planning for what we've got to do in the future. And so we're not in such a strict financial budget like we were several years ago.
Yes.
well, if we're going to look at water and sewer loan funds, we had to get our balance sheet in order with a fund balance. I don't think we would have been received very kindly to borrow funds. If you roll back the clock to 3 years ago, it was 13% fund
Yeah,
balance.
oh, yes, definitely. The LGC is very interested in your fund balance if you're going to borrow for any purpose, whether it's general government or enterprise fund type. That is their first question. And what are you going to do to improve it? So I think they will be pleased to see our report.
I worked for a gentleman for about 6 years who was taught me a lot of lessons. One of the biggest ones, though, had to deal with when you're dealing with someone's money. You have to be highly accountable. And it's nice to know that literally we account for every penny. And that, you know, it's not our money, it's not your money, it's the people's money. And that's good to know that we have done a good job managing it and a good job accounting for it and doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. So I commend you and your staff and all the departments for the hard work that's been put forward and for the services that all this money has provided for us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
much appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, we need a motion to approve the audit as presented.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the audit as presented.
Mr.
Make a
Chairman?
motion to approve the audit as presented.
Second?
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion about the audit? Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. Okay, at this time, I'll recognize Doug Gillespie. Approve request for the purchase of one new Type 3 ambulance. Come on up, Doug.
Good evening. I just want to take the time to request for the board to approve the purchase of a 2017 Ford Type 3 AEV ambulance that we discussed during the last month's meeting. There is a little bit of change from last month's price. We've increased the price by $934. When we looked at the piggyback aspect, we saw some LED lights that we like to put on the scene lights. The reason why we go with LED is lasting a lot longer, plus they're a lot brighter, and they're surrounding the truck, so they keep the guys safer. So the price that I put the other day was with an increase of $934, so the price will be $136,756.
Hey, gentlemen, you've heard the recommendation. I would entertain a motion to,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the request for the one new Type 3 ambulance as presented.
Second.
a motion and a second. Is there any discussion concerning this motion?
I would just say one thing that, LED is just great.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works on your stuff, but as far as, a long-lasting light, since I'm a builder, I have to deal with lights, and long-lasting light that puts off a lot better light than,
And it requires a lot less energy and stuff
Yes.
too, so it's not putting a burden onto the electrical system. With all the lights that
Right.
we have on the truck, it does put a bigger burden, so that takes some of the burden away, so.
And a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Doug.
thanks.
Okay, at this time, I'll recognize County Manager Rick French in regard to State of North Carolina Department of Transportation Division of Motor Vehicles License Plate Agency Contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, this is unusual. Normally, it's the contract from the state concerning the license plate agency. It's just a couple of years. This year, the state is moving to 8-year contracts for all the agencies. And the contract is from November of 2017 to November, and I know it's December now, but to November of 2025. And we would recommend this, I'd recommend this, and specifically because it has 180 days out for us if we choose, so we can get out of the contract with 180 days. Also, I'd like to point out, this past year was the first year that our license plate agency operated in a positive.
That's good.
So we've come a long ways in our time with it. So not by a lot, by a few $1,000s,
Hey,
but we're still,
Used to cost about
Breaking even.
40 a year,
yes,
so.
it did.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but back when, several years ago, was this put up for private bids of somebody wanted to engage,
Yes.
but nobody, I don't think anybody decided they wanted to pursue it, maybe the.
Well, we
the
had to contact the state and go through the process, and we
Yeah.
did. And I think it has some other benefits. It brings people into downtown Taylorsville, and they spend money, so I think it has that kind of spin too. But we've always been concerned about the financial impact on the county's budget, so, but now we're operating in a very
And it's just not
positive-
lucrative enough for somebody to
Right.
want to do it themselves,
Right.
correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. But I'd like to ask if you would, the board would so choose to approve the 8-year agreement as so stated. Again, it has the 180 days that we can get out of it if we find some other idea.
I'll just say, when we started this, we knew it was gonna be
Yeah, we did.
losing money for a few years till things got up to speed, but I'm glad that day has finally come, believe me. And it's just more of a convenient service for the citizens of Alexander County. That's all it is. And we'd actually hoped someone else would take over that role, but nobody stepped up to do it, so county commissioners at the time decided to take that ball and go with it.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are online options, so if you're a citizen, I'd encourage you, if it's convenient, to try to utilize the service. I know I go up there at least 4 or 5 times a year with 4 or 5 vehicles, counting my kids, and I always, I've had people say, why don't you do it online? Well, the reason I don't do it online is because I know it benefits our county if you do the transaction in the county. So if any of you are out there listening or paying attention, if you like this service and want to keep it, you need to support it.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, the tax office, Guy Curley and his staff, they actually oversee this service. So they've done a good job with this and working through lots and lots of things. And we've gotten to where we are. We have to attribute all that to his leadership in this.
Any other questions? If there's not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the State of North Carolina Department of Transportation Division of Motor Vehicles License Plate Agency contract.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion about this motion? Any further discussion?
Thank goodness it's making money and paying for itself.
That's right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. All right, Mr. French, the adopt budget calendar schedule for fiscal year. We just got our financial results for 17, and we're jumping into another budget year.
Yes, sir. Staff is going to recommend that we try to move our process ahead by about a month. So most of the dates that we're going to talk about or just mention, I'll just highlight so we won't go through the whole list. But we're going to start with the department head meeting in January 2018, January 24th. Budget requests and revenue estimates are due to finance by the end of February. Also, outside agency requests are due to finance at that time. On March 30th, we're going to ask the school board for their requests. On April the 9th, we're going to ask for the larger departments, sheriff, DSS, health, EMS, as well as our schools, to make 15-minute presentations to the commissioners. Again, that's ahead of the normal process, but I know there's a lot of issues to talk about with our budget, and we want to give ourselves more time. April the 30th, we will need to schedule a meeting, either a meeting or I will give you a balanced budget at that time, which is, again, about a month ahead of schedule. According to what if we'll go on our normal schedule, we could actually have our public hearing in May and adopt a budget in May if possible. Now that's, but the main thing is to get the budget to the commissioners and give you plenty of time so you can review it and we can discuss it and have budget work sessions as needed and other discussions. But we're going to have a lot of larger issues this year. Upcoming, we're going to have a large project with the Community One Bank building downtown, and then as Commissioner Mayberry pointed out, the 2 large projects, a large water project, which is over $5 million, and a sewer project. And then on the horizon is a widening of 127, although that is not in the next couple of years, we'll have to play a part in relocating utilities, and that's going to be a good expense on our part. The project is scheduled to start in 2023, but there's a possibility it could be moved up a year, which means the utilities have to be moved before then. And so even though it's a couple years out, there's a lot of planning that has to go on. So this is the budget schedule we'd like to recommend. We can tweak the end of it as we go, but we'd like to recommend this schedule at this time. Are there any questions?
Well, and I think I've had some energy around the larger departments presenting, and what we're looking for there is just a high-level bullet point.
Right.
Here's what we're requesting, and, typically that's time when people request increases, which is certainly, normal. And just kind of say, this is what we want to use this for, and this is the need we see. It's just again, not, everybody says, well, 15 minutes. I don't think we don't want it as granular as it sometimes is, more, let's look at the 30,000 foot and see what we're talking about here.
Right.
But I do feel pretty adamant that I think that's a good time for the departments, all of them that, we just saw the larger departments there that make up our budget. It's kind of nice to hear from them in that format. And it's not, please don't take it's not interrogation. That's going to be overly interactive. More be sharing your information on what your future looks like and how you're trying to address it. And then we'll take it from there and start working with it. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir. I think it is.
We don't need any action on this?
I'd like for you to adopt this
Oh,
schedule.
we'd like
to
to
give us some
adopt this, okay.
guidance as we move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we adopt the budget calendar for fiscal year 2018-19 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second?
Have a second. Any further discussion about it? And again, guys, it could move a week or so here and there, but you kind of need a roadmap to get there. This is our roadmap. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. All right, Mr. French, moving on to board appointments and reappointments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Local Emergency Planning Committee, appoint Ben Carver, 3 years. Reappoint Dennis James, Seth Harris, Patty Foster Nelson, Robert Chapman for 3 years. School Funding Agreement Committee, appoint Ronnie Reese to replace Milton Campbell, and Jeff Pill to replace Ryan Mayberry.
And I'll just say on the school funding agreement committee, the reason that is changed is because none of us could get our schedules to line up correctly. So Ronnie and Jeff agreed to take over those, and we appreciate that.
Well, I think Ronnie is moving into the chair position. That was what I will be leaving, and that kind of makes sense, as well as work schedules. I'm just never here, so that I would mess up the process, just to be honest with you. Don't want to do that. Looks like we've got some good people on the local emergency plan, and that's a great group there.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the appointments as listed.
Have a motion?
Second?
And a second. Any further discussion about those appointments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise.
I didn't raise my hand, but I guess.
You've got to be faster than that. Budget ordinance amendments number 25 through 29, Mr. French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 25 is transfer funds from public buildings contingency to sheriff's office capital outlay in order to purchase the sheriff's evidence storage building. The county has been leasing the building. Funds were set aside in the public buildings contingency line item during the budget process with plans to finalize the purchase during fiscal year 2018. This budget amendment transfers the funds to the sheriff's office capital outlay expense line item so the building purchase can be capitalized as a fixed asset in fiscal year 2018, and that's for $115,000. Budget amendment number 26 to increase the sheriff's budget to purchase equipment for law enforcement vehicles. Equipment will be purchased by using the insurance claim proceeds from a law enforcement vehicle that was deemed a total loss after a tree fell on it during the tornado in October of 2017. That's budget amendment number 26. 27, transfer funds within the cooperative extension budget for the May through June 2018 salary and FICA expense for the 4-H summer intern. These costs are originally budgeted in a line item for cooperative extension staff costs that are split between the state and the county. This transfer moves the funds for the 4-H summer intern to the county expense line items. Budget amendment number 28 is to adjust project budget. Change order number 1 to decrease construction contract by $2,500 for modification of a pump station access drive. Number 2 is to increase construction line item for rock excavation in excess of original contract, $14,290, and adjust contingency line item to the amount needed for the estimated cost to subgrade improvement for wet soil conditions in the area of the pump station of $6,897. Budget amendment number 29 is to increase the general fund local match for the industrial pump station replacement project. Revised cost estimates related to rock excavation and subgrade improvement require additional county funds to supplement the grant funds. The original county grant funds of $298,349 were transferred to the project fund in fiscal year 2017 from the new sales tax, Article 44-524. That can be used for economic development, public education, and community college. The additional county match needed in fiscal year 2018 will also come from the new sales tax that was received last year. And that's all the budget amendments. Are there any questions?
Someone any questions?
Just a question on the equipment for the car that got the tree on it.
Yes, sir.
So I get when the car totaled out, all the equipment on the car, I mean, that's what we're talking about,
Yes, sir.
computer and all that stuff?
Yes, sir.
So none of that was salvageable? Wow.
In the evidence storage bin, how long have we been leasing that? That consolidated evidence storage for the sheriff's department, get in one central location,
It did, yes,
which
sir.
was a concern that the
years.
sheriff had for years.
Yes, sir. A couple years.
How long have we been leasing that?
A couple of years.
And those of
I'm
you
not sure.
familiar, that building's, trying to which way in terms, right up there.
Is it just 2 years? Seems
I
like it's
have-
been longer than that. I think it
Well-
was like 3
Maybe it's 3.
or 4.
Years ago, they had video games in there, and it was kind of like a kid's hangout, if you go back to the 70s. So, it's being repurposed. Okay, any questions? I'd entertain a motion on those budget amendments, if you feel so inclined.
Mr. Chairman, recommend that we adopt budget amendments 25 through 29 as presented.
Okay, have a motion?
Second?
Okay, is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor raise your right hand. Those opposed, likewise. All right, County Manager's report, Mr. French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things to mention. One, we're going to be advertising for the Community One Bank building project in January, and hopefully awarding the bid at our February 5th meeting. The Bethlehem Sewer and the Alexander County Water projects are both on schedule. Also want to mention that we met with Senator Andy Wales on Wednesday, November 29th. We have discussed a number of items. Just want to mention a couple tonight. The commissioners have been discussing for some time the North Carolina Department of Transportation regulations that prevent municipalities from assisting property owners along unpaved, non-state maintained roads. Commissioners continually receive a large number of calls from citizens who live on unpaved roads not maintained by NCDOT. This is a big statewide problem. Counties can bring roads up to standards to be taken into the state system, but they have to implement assessment taxes, and that's something that the commissioners talked to Senator Wells about. They also talked about the Highway 127 paving project and bridge replacement, which we mentioned earlier. Commissioner Mayberry had talked to Commissioner Wells, and we talked about some at the meeting about four-laning Highway 16 south. There was also discussion about, is the new sales tax safe? We want to be sure about that, and Senator Wells assured us that during this session, upcoming session it was. We had some discussion about lottery funding, and there was some information shared with the commissioners. I think that information was later shared with the school folks. And then we had a discussion about PARTIF funding, that's Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. The county is interested in developing a park at Wittenberg Access, and we talked about some of the details of that grant, which is due in May of 2018. Brief sales tax report is that we currently have collected $1,110,092 in regular sales tax, which is 24.3% collected for 25% of our fiscal year. The budget for sales tax revenue for 17-18 is $4,556,000. We are 5.5% ahead of this time, same time last year. The new sales tax is $362,411. It's 25.9% collected for 25% of the budget year. The budget for the new sales tax is $1,399,000, which it is 7.2% ahead of last year. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless there's any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just mention, Senator Wells actually called me today, and I did not get a chance to, he left a message, I did not get a chance to call him back. So we'll have some follow-up information for you guys maybe in the next day or two. What the county manager was reporting about unpaved roads that are not maintained by North Carolina DOT, it is a huge problem in Alexander County, in Catawba County, Caldwell, very big problem in the mountain counties and across the state. But we've got to come up with some sort of way for the state or the counties to address these roads because they're a serious issue. They create public safety problems, getting fire trucks, ambulances in and out, and nobody just seems to want to address the problem. I brought it up back in January in Raleigh at the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals Conference, and the larger counties, you know, most of their roads are maintained by cities and towns, so it's not a big deal for them, but especially for us rural counties, it is a big deal. So we've got to come up with some sort of way to address that. I don't know if it will ever be addressed, but it needs to be. And as far as what Mr. French said about the water and sewer projects, that's going to be a huge thing for Bethlehem, that sewer project. It's going to really be an economic development boom for that area, and I can't wait to get it started. So I believe both of them were exactly $5 million, but we've got the opportunity to go back later if need be, and then additional projects as well.
That's correct.
So
Yes, sir.
sewer's a big deal, and we need to do more of it. So.
Any comments?
Yes, sir, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. At this time, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. At this time, we will adjourn to go into closed session, North Carolina General Statute 143-31, 8.11A, 4, 5, and 6, Economic Development, Contractual, and Personnel. We will reconvene for the purpose of adjourning only. Is there a motion concerning that?
I move to go into closed session.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.